Alright everyone, the Democratic Convention is going about as well as you would expect it to go, which is to say not particularly well. I'm looking at commentary even from people from the left. Now, they're not really enthused about Biden. Most of them prefer Bernie, but Bernie gives a speech at the convention. Nobody really cares. It doesn't appear to have moved the needle at all. They had this music video, link in the description, if you want to see something. It's surreal because only the Democrats could pull this off, right? They managed to take the cheesy editing of an 80s pop video, like a We Are the World thing, smash it together with a down-tuned, low-key sort of 60s ballad. They slam it together, and then they present it in as cheesy a way as possible. And it's basically a huge BLM mashup. Just watch it. My God. It looks like the sort of thing that a right-winger would make to mock the left. Like, this would be like a really over-the-top, usually hyperbolic stereotype of, like, left-wing memes. You know, it's like the left can't meme thing, and mostly when you see that, someone on the right has made a meme about their inability to meme, and it's like a wall of text or something, and so it's sort of, you know, nobody's going to get anything out of it because it's too obtuse. This looks sort of similar to that. It's like the music video version of the left can't meme. Again, it's almost not worth even commenting on the substance, for instance, of what people have said at their speeches there. Like, they have Kasich, right? John Kasich's not even a Democrat. He's a Republican. He's been a never-Trump Republican. He was a third-wheel candidate who tried and failed to unify with Cruz and Rubio, probably because they're so egotistical, none of them could figure out who wanted to be top dog on an anti-Trump general ticket that was already ill-fated by the time Super Tuesday ended regardless. He's known as the cringe candidate, literally the most cringy candidate from the last election in the sense of the Republicans, has flipped over and tacitly endorsed Joe Biden. And he was one of the worst. It's like when people in 2016 said, well, Kasich fares the best in matchups against Hillary Clinton. Yeah, because nobody knew who he was. You might as well have just said Republican versus Hillary Clinton. Any Republican versus Hillary Clinton, yeah, no shit, Hillary does more poorly because people don't have anything to criticize in that vacuous sort of state of non-candidacy. This is hugely cringe. And when I'm looking at commentary of it, basically it boils down to people that are mocking it for being cringy and people who are like, well, it doesn't really do anything. It's basically a digital convention anyway. This isn't really a real in-person style event with roaring crowds and stuff. That's typically what a convention is. A convention is where you showcase your best. It's sort of like a convention where they're rolling out the next year's models of automobiles. A lot of flashing lights, blaring music, grand soaring speeches. Everything is shined, spit shined to the point where it glows like a goddamn diamond. That's typically what a convention is like. I'll tell you, one reason the Democrats are doing this has nothing to do with COVID. It's because they were looking back at the convention many, many years ago, back in, oddly enough, the same era in which this cringy song initially was made, back in the 1960s. What happened? Tens of thousands of hippies started rioting at the convention. They started rioting. They didn't like the platform. They didn't like the party because it was stabbing people in the back and doing crazy shit. And I think that they were worried about Bernie fans because if you remember Veritas's release from, what was it now, almost 2 years ago, they had one of Bernie's campaign people. They had one of them saying, yeah, if we don't win, we're going to burn Milwaukee down. Well, it's going to be kind of hard to justify that. You're already burning a half a dozen other U.S. cities to the ground night after night. Michelle Obama just last night calling them peaceful protesters again. Yeah, so screw the dude that got kicked in the back of the head when he was already beaten bloody, and, you know, again, I'm not sure if he's even alive at the moment. Last night they attacked a bunch more people, too. Not a peep about it from the Democrats at the convention. No disavowal of far-left violence. Interesting, since the Biden-Harris ticket lurched to the right and has visibly thrown Bernie and all these others under the bus, they cut AOC's slot out of the convention for a very good reason. They want... Essentially, they want people to look at Harris and listen to Biden 20 years ago, and that's basically what their campaign boils down to. Again, a cringe line of surrogates. The best that they've got to buff things up, they've got two people, essentially, as campaign surrogates that kind of work. Michelle Obama, who works predominantly just because she was the first lady. She's been sort of above the fray. She's never taken significant political damage from anything other than the comments about her looks, which really, they fall flat. Nobody really enjoys that, outside of, again, a satirical context. And then Bernie Sanders. But the problem is Bernie was a man who barely managed to win New Hampshire, the twin state of his home state of Vermont, his second home state. He was born in Brooklyn and raised there, of course, against Buttigieg, a man with 2 years of political experience on the local level, as the mayor of some city most people have never even fucking heard of. And he managed to win by, what was it, a few thousand votes in the primaries there. Trump, by the way, apparently, according to the numbers that I've seen, is one of only 4 candidates, 4 incumbents that got more votes in the primary than their opponent. And all the other 3 won. I think Reagan running for re-election. What was it Dwight Eisenhower or something? There haven't been very many of these people. There's a reason for that. There's no voter enthusiasm on the left, but Trump has huge in-party enthusiasm. And trust me, the Republican convention, which will also be, I believe, largely digital only, will go off without a hitch and be exciting. Because at the very least, Trump will say crazy things. They'll have some mavericks, they'll have like Diamond and Silk or something like that. They'll get like independent creators there. Instead, the Democrats have gone with very mainline pop, again, we are the world, heal the world bullshit, which was antiquated 20 years ago. They've gone with basically recycling. What they're trying to do, it almost seems, hear me out here, they're trying to take the aspects of left or liberal movements from the past that succeeded or worked at the time, fuse them together and repackage them. So again, the We Are the World feel of this video is, in my opinion, not entirely coincidental. You've got the old 60s ballads, like they'll sing Imagine and Fortunate Son and stuff like that. Like, we don't really have an active war going on at the moment, except in name, but for some reason they're using 60s protest music. And by the way, you've lost the boomer voters. They've all flocked to Trump now. You've managed to alienate them by trying to rob them of their life savings. And then combining that with sort of the Obama feel. I mean, Biden's the candidate. Obama and Michelle Obama, they're both sort of at the forefront at this point. Bernie Sanders' politics is sort of like that latent hippie early 70s style movement, sort of like the slightly pre-Jimmy Carter era that leads to that form of hard liberalism. And these were all, at the time at least, culturally successful. The problem is I'm not sure that especially younger voters really give a damn. Like the millennials that piled on Obama, by the end of his second term largely no longer strongly supported him because he hadn't accomplished the things that he originally campaigned on. He didn't close Gitmo. He didn't solve the economic problems on any systemic basis. He bailed out a bunch of corporations. Occupy falls apart. The Tea Party comes, sweeps away half of his successes that he had early on, and he basically sits on his thumbs for the first 2 years of his first term anyway, when he had a mandate. By the way, people have criticized Trump, and in some ways that criticism is true as well of his first couple of years. They're trying to repackage all these things, but they're old. You're repackaging them because they're from the past. They're not really, this isn't going to compete. Do you think that this speech lineup, John Kasich, wow, oh, Donald Trump is a real bad dude. Bernie Sanders, a dude pushing 80 years old. Is this great optics if you're trying to swing for the under 25 demographic that's already not enthusiastic? They all, when Bernie gets up there, they'll cheer because they want him to be the candidate. They would rather have AOC be the candidate. They want someone who's, at the very least they have an energy to them, and that's not Joe Biden. And it's also, by the way, not Kamala Harris. The problem is usually she's fairly slow-spoken and sort of non-energetic. So you may have noticed it's like a Biden. But then when she tries to amp up the energy, it's a real hit-and-miss sort of thing. Sometimes, like with the first Dem debate during the primaries, she does fairly well. She had a good debate performance, soars up into the double digits. Everyone keeps blabbering about how she's going to be the candidate. Oh, they've nominated her. Look out, she's the next Hillary out of nowhere. And of course, I correctly predicted that wasn't true. She was a flash-in-the-pan candidate. They had like 5 of them in a fucking row. It's formulaic. Happens, the out party always has that happen every fucking election. If they have a packed field at all. Happened to an extent in 2016, they cast around a little bit, and they're like, oh, maybe O'Malley's not such a bad dude, but ultimately it boiled down to 2 people. It was a very low enthusiasm election then, too, and you see how that worked for the Democrats. But Harris, half the time, though, when she tries to get that energy, she just comes off as antagonistic. Like, she gets mean and starts stuttering or she doesn't know what to say. She has a deer in the headlights moment. Biden doesn't really have that problem as much because he's never really high energy. And again, on the occasions that he does share that problem, I suppose, sometimes, like with challenging people to a push-up contest. By the way, you're not going to hear much about Biden or Harris's record here. You're going to hear vague platitudes throughout the convention about how they're going to change America. We need change. But they're not going to tell you how they want to change it other than we need to tax the billionaires, which they're not going to do because they're getting their money. We need to tackle climate change, which is a fucking non-issue right now. Trump did a bad job on coronavirus. Here's 0 ways on which I would have improved upon it. Well, we should have a mask mandate. That seems to be Biden's strategy to deal with coronavirus. But you can't. No legal expert in the world would advise you that it would be a good idea to go up against SCOTUS on that one, because you'd lose and you'd waste millions of taxpayers' money litigating, I'm sure. But yeah, look at the video in the description. Oh my god, that's the symbol of the first day of the Democratic Convention that's probably pretty... That or Kasich stuffing his face with pizza and mumbling at a reporter. Because apparently, they think that a Republican... They've got so few people in party that are talented enough to be surrogates or to speak on behalf of Biden that they had to drag like an ever-Trumper on board. And a second-tier one at that. They couldn't get Mitt Romney to defect, I guess. Mitt Romney likes to straddle the line. He likes to lambaste Trump while also endorsing him because he knows that'll get him reelected. Isn't he in his mid-70s too, though? He doesn't look it. He's had a lot of plastic surgery. Hair pieces and cap teeth. That's about all. Peace out.